What's up YouTube, my name is Ren and today I'll be bringing you a 2019 tutorial guide for Palace of the Dead in Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Now before we get into the video, I would like to shout out Mr. Happy for his current guides and my current FC Siren's Fang for making this guide possible. For more updated guides and other news for Final Fantasy XIV, hit the subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you can receive quick notice on new content. And with that, let's proceed to the video. Okay, to begin your travels into the deep depths of Palace of the Dead, you must start at New Gridania at the small guild hub where the inn is located. There you will find a quest giver named Nojiro Morihiro who is in the left corner of the room who will give you the quest, The House That Death Built. Once completing the quest assigned, then you will be able to open Palace of the Dead. To have this quest available, you must have beaten the main scenario quest Into a Copper Hell. Now once you begin, you will start on floor 1 and at level 1, and through each encounter though you will gain substantial amount of leveling until you face a set boss. A set boss is what we call 10 floors, since you're not able to save your progression until you defeat the boss of that current set. Once beating the boss, you will gain a decent amount of XP depending on your current level and the current difficulty of that current set. Throughout the first major 50 floors, you will run over many experiences that I would like to go over later in either a party or solo run. Now one of these things are Aether Pool Gear, or Aether Arm, or Aether Armor. You gain this by obtaining silver chests throughout your process from each floor of Palace of the Dead. This is heavily required to have a decent level in if you plan on tackling the savage content that's beyond the first 100 floors. I recommend, if you're aiming for a clear, to farm the early floors from 1 through 60 until you gain around 70 in both Aether Pool categories. This will help a lot determining damage and defense capabilities, since your current gear that you go into the dungeon with will not mean nothing. Now another key ingredient to farm, well, I'm going to give you those details. You will want to farm bronze chests. Now you're probably asking me, Ren, should we focus on the bronze chests? Well, you will need to earn the pot shards that are given from them. These pot shards can be turned into Yuna Quarter on the outside of Coral Mill. She's right next to the entrance of the dungeon, and she contains sustaining potions that can come vital in a solo run and also help the group run if your healer is needing more comfortable mindsets going into the higher floors. Food items are needed once reaching past 151 or higher. These are varied depending on what classes you run. Eye drops is most needed for traps that contain debuffs, and make sure you stack on many potions when entering the dungeon. Now the difference between a matched and fixed party is that matched party can only allow you to achieve a 1 through 100 clear, meaning you cannot enter a 101 or higher with a matched party. To challenge the 101 or 200 floor section or savage content, you must have a party of 4 and start at floor 51 and make a successful run to 100 without having a team KO. If your team dies as a whole even once, your run is over and you must start back at 51. So some things to think about when traveling through the higher floors is to get in the habits of not using all of your commanders, especially if you're in a fixed party. I recommend having an item manager who monitors over the items, letting the party know what to pop for each situation or encounter you may face. Collecting commanders are especially needed on a solid run. Also, I don't recommend using intuitions until floor 151, and since the gold sacks have the best loot drop of 2019 that the palace can offer as of now. Now, reasons for having a item manager is because you would need them to be able to call out what commanders to pop in certain encounters. Now, I don't suggest popping any commanders unless you're opening a chest and it doesn't allow you to pick that commander up because you're full. So when going into this, you would want your tank to always pop Pomander Steel. If your tank already has a Pomander Steel and you have an extra one on the floor, I suggest the healer will be the next appropriate option on popping the Pomander Steel, especially in the higher floors. Now when it comes to Pomander of Strength, Pomander of Strength should definitely go to your range DPS, either if it's the Red Mage, if you're even running a Bard or a Summoner, they would need the Pomander of Strength first. Then if you're able to get another Pomander of Strength in your Red Mage or whatever your range DPS is, then you would want to swing that to the current melee DPS. So other Pomanders that you might want to look into when going into runs are the transformation Pomanders. Now the transformation Pomanders goes into Lust, Resolution, and Rage. Now let's start with Lust. Lust does a certain stack ability with vulnerability up to 5 times, and I wouldn't suggest using Lust unless one, there's one on the floor and you can pick one back up and you can have 3, or you're facing a boss to where you want to be able to end them off, and that vulnerability stack of 5 for an entire minute will come very clutch. Now when it comes to Rage, Rage is that panic moment, like, oh, we popped a luring trap on this floor, or you know, something around that lines. You want to save your rages to the absolute worst situations. So when something like that happens to your squad and it can ruin your run, if you do not, then your item manager would be the one in that situation to call out, hey tank, pop a rage. And then once that occurs, the tank will pop a rage and they will clear the current luring trap. Now there's other methods of using rage, as well as if you're farming for other Pomanders. If you're low on Pomanders, the best method is using it, such as popping a fortune and clearing out a monster room. That is a good method. Or even if you have a Pomander of Rage on a floor that you just cleared and your gate key, you know, your portal to the next floor is open, you can also pop the rage and run over to the portal, so you can use that current rage on that current floor on the next floor to be able to clear out very quickly, because the rage has a 60-second cooldown if I'm not mistaken. So that's another huge thing. Now let's go over to Resolution. Resolution is very, very picky on when the situation needs to occur. Now there's certain bosses that you will face, such as floor 100 boss, who is based around the undead. Now resolutions give a powerful stun ability, and literally, depending if it's adds, one-shots adds with the holy ability, and also stuns the boss with the current ability as well if they're undead. So resolutions is really differential on if you are knowing the boss is undead or not. So I would very, very much look out for that in certain situations. Now we're going to go into situational Pomanders. These come into different cases that you all encounter through your run through Palace of the Dead. So let's go with Pomander of Raising. Pomander of Raising gives an automatic revive to the first party member that falls while the Pomander of Raising is still active. This brings you back with full health with no weakness debuff. Now this can come into saving a run. You guys popped your luring trap. It comes into many different encounters. I suggest not using them unless you're literally one of the last few up, to where if you die, the run is over. Or if you're by yourself and you're doing a solo run, I suggest using a Pomander Raising for a boss encounter that you're not too comfortable in being able to clear alone, just for, you know, safekeepings, and you don't want to end your run right then. Alright, let's go off into Pomander of Witching. Pomander of Witching is definitely a huge case where if you're popping a luring trap and it's not that big of a deal, or you're picking up an extra witching and you're wanting to farm, this Pomander just turns all mobs into small animals like frogs, chickens, and stuff like that. So it can be, you know, differential of what you want to use. Another good one is Pomander Serenity. Say for instance you're on a floor that you don't want to encounter gloom or having massive debuffs where you can't use items or abilities. Serenity is key, especially in the higher floors, so I suggest saving them. Another key items that you can be able to run into is Pomander of Sight and Pomander of Safety. Now if you're running a rage to clear a floor, it's suggested to use a Pomander of Safety, so whoever is the mana core won't step on any traps while trying to defeat many mobs as possible to clear that floor. Also, Pomander of Sight opens up the entire map for anyone to be able to see, and it's very useful. This comes into play on who you have as your item manager, and really depends on what they want to do. Now those are the key Pomanders I say that you would look into, but that's just my personal opinion. Now my overall opinion from spending countless hours in Palace is that you need to look for a group that you're willing to progress with and everyone is comfortable on their own designated role. Personally, Party Finder is a good way. I found the people that I was playing with in this video in Party Finder, and now they're really, you know, good friends, I can say. I wouldn't say like I know them all the way. I know Cora. I'm planning on doing some things with her and, you know, duo, so I hope you guys do stay tuned for that. But this run couldn't be possible if you didn't have team synergy. So you could run with FC members, you could run with static members. It's just you need to find a balanced schedule, and it's very time consuming, so I suggest you work around on what everyone wants to do. After going through many trials and errors, the best party comp for this and the safer route is using Paladin as your main tank, just because of the fact that it has low blow, it has clemency, and it has shield bash. Those are three major keys of keeping Paladin there, because you know, shield bash stuns many of the mobs, preventing them from using their white mechanics, especially higher up. Clemency is always great for getting some heals down and helping your healer out. Now, I would also suggest with your DPS, now you can run with your melee, I would say Dragoon or Ninja, just because how you know, team-based those two melee DPS roles are. And for your range DPS, I suggest running Red Mage or Summoner. Now I'm going to go into the flaws for both. Red Mage, you don't have your raises, so that's the major flaw, but you do have Vercure and you have a lot of DPS power. Cora did an absolute wonderful job throughout our run, and she has so much DPS to use at her utility to where that raise doesn't really need to be happening if you're burning through mobs as fast as possible. Now for Summoner, the issues with having Summoner, yes, you have your raise, it's an extra raise to help your healer just in case the healer falls and you can bring him back, but the issue is that your pet might be able to pull unnecessary mobs in the higher floors. That is a major key on how that run can be able to be faulted because of it. Now, when it comes to other scenarios, I suggest just running what you're preferred, but those are my major things that you should really look into going forward. Now, I advise for everyone to get in the habit of when reaching one-on-one to run alongside walls to prevent unnecessary traps being popped. When pulling a lowering trap higher up, you know, just die there. Don't bring it to the team. Make sure you're trying to die in a hallway so it's easy to pick you up, but don't drag the lure of all the mobs to your party or your healer. Just die there, they'll pick you up using a Phoenix down or using a raise. So it's best just to, you know, die in the hallway and, you know, be careful. Now also, you want to make sure that everyone's comfortable and careful when pulling mobs. So when you're pulling a mob, if it's small and your group wants bigger mobs, use bigger mobs. If your group is not used to bigger mobs, then pull smaller mobs. It just depends on whatever you do. Now guys, I really hope you enjoy the video. This helps me from how I experienced Palace of the Dead for many guides that I have to look over, and that's the reason why I thank Mr. Happy. His guides from 2017 really helped me come together with an actual guide to help you guys out. And I tried looking on Reddit, I tried looking, a lot of them was very outdated, but I hear and get tips every single day and learn different mechanics. So like, if you guys like these type of videos, please leave a comment below, hit a like, and I'll see you guys later.